Thank you for tuning in. So, today I wanted to break down James Gunn's raunchy and shady intentions behind making Peacemaker Season 2 and why this looks like a sign of dark times ahead for the DCEU. So, I will let you know right up front. I have not looking at Season 2, especially by the look of it, and I have no desire to see it at all collectively. Especially after I saw the trailer by accident for Season 2 last week. So just to let you know, I have no intention of looking at it, and I'm just going to go ahead and give you my critique and my perspective on that real quick. So as I get into this, there's something that we need to do one thing clear about Gunn as we move forward. So I'm going to read this quote because many of you already know this, but I'm going to go ahead and go over it because this is basically going to set the tone from my perspective. So these are James Gunn's words. I love superheroes. I also think they're the dumbest thing that have ever existed. I have no happier times in my life than lying in my bed when I was 12 and reading comic books. I don't think life got much better than that. And yet, the fact that we take these things seriously as adults is ridiculous. Because people really will look at you like they look at Peacemaker when he walks into Fields wearing a costume. What's wrong with you? You think that's cool? You're a maniac. So, by definition, he doesn't just think that superheroes are crazy. He thinks that Peacemaker is crazy. So Peacemaker is really a parody of superheroes. So it's not by accident that he led from Superman to Peacemaker. Okay? This is not by accident. Leading into that is because, again, I have not seen season 2. And I have not seen season 1. So, with that in mind, I know that the reason why Superman was pulled from theaters was because what Gunn Superman was pulled from theaters is that the powers that be, David Zaslav told him to pull it just in time for Super Peacemaker season 2. So, since that's been really debunked, and Peacemaker season 2 is taking place after the events of Gunn Superman, right? So, he already knows he's leading this for kids to look at. He's making this relevant, so to speak. Okay? So, with this being relevant, his approach to make Peacemaker relevant is to pretty much let everybody know, again, reiterating that this is canon. Because that's the point of bringing people together, is to watch Superman, and pretty much make Superman irrelevant, saying, okay, well, you don't really have to look at Superman. You can just look at season 2 of Peacemaker, and that will be enough. So he's willing to disregard the same movie that he's been lying about how much money they need to break even, and how good it is, and what he's going to do with DCEU. He just pretty much just threw Superman to the curb just for Peacemaker, just for you to check out Peacemaker, right? And again, I have not looked at season 2. I have not looked at season 1. So the reason I bring that up is because for some reason, this is supposed to take place. This is supposed to be one of the things that makes it relevant is because it has a dimensional doorway to other DC dimensions, setting up a multiverse, right? So that's one of the reasons why Superman ties into Peacemaker 2. And the reason why I bring this up, there's also a major level of concern, is because he's decided to retcon his season 1. You know, the part where the Snyderverse characters, the core real characters, and he decides to take this opportunity to replace the Justice League with the Justice Gang, which is non-canonical and is not really created except from him. So Justice Gang is just something he made up that he's just basically trying to fit into his DCEU to make it sound like that we're supposed to be invested in something that has no canon. We're just supposed to accept this, right? And this is supposed to make sense because he already has gone on record to say that the only things that are canon are Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, and Superman. All right? And with that in mind, this is the whole point. His whole thing is that his whole intention is to make sure that everything is retconned. He wants to make sure that he gets rid of anything that does not tie into Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker Season 2. Okay? That's what he would like to do. But you know what? He doesn't have the money to do it because it's not really up to him. That will be his preference to do it. He's moving on to preference of what he would like to do. So Basically, he just sets up everything, basically ridiculing and minimizing and pretty much making fun of the exact same characters that he wants us to take seriously to a certain degree. Like saying that, making up jokes that Aquaman would go F a fish, and that Peacemaker made up a rumor about Green Lantern Guy Gardner saying that he has a puke fetish, right? Because these are the things that you actually want to do. Because this shows the level of respect he has for these characters. Remember, he said, right? They're crazy. They're maniacs going through a costume that want to be taken seriously, right? So this is what he's making fun of. This is what's funny to him. So I wanted to take into account, again, what I covered before. He has reiterated that the way that's really canon is pretty much Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker season 2. Because again, he would love to be the joy. He would love to do it and just go ahead and just CGI everybody out and make and put in only the people that he wants in, only the characters that he wants that he's made that want the that's basically relevant to his particular DCEU, and get rid of everything so that way everything has a central story that he deems as relevant to his DCEU, right? And again, to no surprise, season 2 of Peacemaker gets 100% Rotten Tomato score, of course. And no, and apparently, Superman started off high, as well as Creature Commander starts off high. That's at 90%. So of course, nobody should have a problem with a Rotten Tomato score show, because that means that it's deemed critical to all of the review, all the people who critically reviewed it, and it meets all of the burden of proof that this is a great quality show, right? Okay, so, but for show is not relevant. This show is relevant, but it's not accessible to kids. So he wanted to reiterate that this show is basically for adults. It's not for kids. So you sold toys and other merchandise targeting towards kids for Superman, right? So that was the goal, to get them to look at Superman. If anybody knows anything about kids, if you tell kids not to do something, they're more than likely going to find it, especially if you built a Superman that was basically targeting kids, to which kids mostly liked, and then you go from kids and then you tell them not to look at something, but it's core and canon, but then you throw it away so you don't have to look at that. It's pretty much a disclaimer because you know what's going to come ahead, right? So I say that to say this. Not canon, nothing to do with the comics. This is just his version, okay? Because he has changed the character completely from season 1 to season 2, just so he can ignore anything about what the character's about, so you can take him wherever you want. The whole point of the real reason why he's doing this is because once you start taking a character and you throw away everything about what makes that character to what it is to its core, that means it's an off-brand of the character of what you are. Here's the problem with that, though. That's under the DC brand. So you're taking him everywhere that you want to make it really about you. So he is taking the whole series in a whole complete other direction, because from what I've heard, season 1 is pretty much tamed to season 2, and then some people say that season 2 is tamed from season 1. So again, he is taking the character in a completely different direction than what the character was ever intended to begin with. Right now, it's a sign of lazy writing, and also it's another excuse to bring out your proclivities and use and play them out through the character, which is what I believe. He wants to take this time to separate and warn people not to look at it, because I think he knows the fact is that it's for adults. But with all due respect, even adults need to be warned about this, because from what I've seen just in the previews alone, from what I've heard by rumor, most people would not be interested in this. I'm going to tell you, most men would not want to see this. He changed the character completely. And I'm just talking about his version of the character that got people invested, that wanted to know what was going on, which is very little, because this is not a popular show by any means. But he has went ahead and said that he wants to change up the character and pretty much make it this kind of struggle to pretend that he's really going through something, even though all these things do not reflect anything that goes back to the core purpose of the character. Not at all. So that excuse doesn't fly. And again, this, if you like a character that likes show tunes and opening up to a dance number and basically just has orgies and actually having group smecks, this is pretty much a show for you. But under no by no means is this a DC character. Not at all. This is not a DC character. This has nothing to do with the DC brand or any type of DC character. This is more of a Hollywood thing, and this is Gunn when he's been through Hollywood for so long, because this is his place to actually go out and act out what he really wants to do, especially with these characters. Okay? So I want to read this because I want to let you know that this is also something that goes to the intentions of what he really wants to do. So back in October of 2022, it was announced that James Gunn and Peter Safran will jointly take over the reins of DC Studios. Since the announcement, Gunn and Safran have been hard at work building their DC slate. Finally, fans now have an idea of what the new cinematic universe will offer. What's more, the pair reveal their new universe will include morally ambiguous and gray characters, which will undoubtedly add depth and intrigue to the exciting projects on the table. And I'm just going to read the third paragraph because it's more relevant. While revealing their long-awaited slate of projects, Gunn stated, "We want to take away from good guy versus bad guy, and there's sorts of really, really almost saintly people. Superman is among them." So he is going for the gray. He's going for the morally ambiguous characters. Why? So he can blur the lines of what's good and evil. And when this article was released, this was before we got a glimpse of what Peacemaker is actually going to go through. I don't believe that anybody had any idea this is where they were going to take the DC brand. So, excuse me. His whole intention is to blur the lines of morality and to make sure that he can just get away with anything he wants at this point. So he's using DC as a brand to basically just go ahead and just not be held to the standard of what good and what evil is. He wants to operate in the grays as well. Okay? So, again, and I will actually agree with the first part of this, is saying that take this post however you want. And I agree. Because people seem to have the convenient memory of not remembering that James Gunn has never made a accurate comic book ever. You can go back and look at every character; they will not be comically accurate. Okay, so again, and like he said before, like whoever wrote this at you, whatever. But the point is that he basically wants to use every situation as a comedy for his infantile jokes, for his tone-deaf jokes, and stuff that doesn't land. Only thing that applies to him that only he would find funny. And he changes their traits so that he can mostly do it to make it funny. Because that's basically what he wants to do. And the truth is, he has sacrificed the core character of who Peacemaker really is and his intention and purpose in the comics for his own sordid purposes. So that needs to be said. And so this just goes to show that people who love Gunn blindly and can't distinguish the difference between canon and convenience are basically just allowing him to do it, and you'll just accept anything. So there's no point in even talking to you. He is taking a character that never went through what he's putting him through. Never. That was never what the character was intended. Okay? Now, you tell me the difference. You see the real Peacemaker, you see the intent and purposes very well, and then you see James Gunn's John Cena character and how he respects the comics. Again, he has no respect for any of these characters. That was never his intention. Peacemaker is a caricature of how he feels about comic books. So we need to actually hold him to that. That's the whole point. And he basically says that Peacemaker is more well known than Superman in some parts of the world. He thinks because this movie is the false hit that he thinks it is. Right? For some reason, what part of the world is Peacemaker more well known than Superman? Nobody's showing up to see Peacemaker at all, let alone to see season 2. And you're using this as an excuse to preface. The fact is that Superman is less popular than Peacemaker. But I think I know why he's saying this. This is why. This is particularly why. Because at some point, he wants to make a solo Peacemaker movie. And this was his MO the whole time. And I'm going to go on. I'm going to predict that this is really his favorite character. His favorite version of the character that he wants. To be able to be front loaded. To the solo to get for Hit to get your solo film. Why not? James Gunn doesn't have to go through anybody. He's already greenlit Creature Commandos season 2. Nobody really asked for that, nor is anybody watching that. And he did the same thing for Peacemaker for season 2. Nobody asked for that, and he can greenlight anything he wants. David Zaslav gave him a blank check. He has the keys to the kingdom, and he can do whatever he wants to, like a kid, like a pig in slop. Okay? So let's not be misguided to believe that he's not capable of the things he wants to do. Because the truth is, and I'm just going to say this right now, I think that his real hidden agenda is to make Peacemaker his real core character, to tie everything into him. So that way he can lead DCEU with Peacemaker as the head of the Justice Gang. And then lead it into the dark with Superman as a wimp. And with this emo Superman and a drunk Supergirl. So take a look at how he started. He likes losers, criminals, perverts, depravity, and lewdness, as well as infantile jokes that only he gets. And he wants to. That's why he started off with the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, and then Gunn Superman. I think this has been his agenda the whole time, because he's only interested in the oddity and quirky characters with loose morality, and you can tell by these characters he chooses to pick on his 10-year slate. I bet he had a deal where he can get his oddity and quirky stuff as long as he uses the popular characters at least once or twice a year. It's another reason why I blame you gun cultists, because he wouldn't do this if you guys didn't give him full support. So I blame you guys as well. And now, knowing that, I want you to know all of this is on you. You own all of this. Now that he's got the keys to the kingdom, he's got full control without having to ask for permission. Because you guys accepted this, but this was what we were worried at from the beginning. And I predict dark times for the DCEU. It's not looking good. Wallets closed. That's all I have so far. Check back with me for more updates on the DC Universe, Marvel Universe, and the other movie universes. Until the next video, peace.